I've been training and racing in the Tour de France just to work in your garden.
And that was Marilyn Trout. And if you don't know her name, you should. And we will correct that later in this episode. Welcome to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. I'm Matthew Piaro, editor, and with me is Dan Walker, social media editor. Dan, how's it going?
Dude, my legs are barbecued.
Dude? What is it?
That's the only way to describe it.
So you're coming off of a
Big
Canada Day
ride.
Okay.
Yeah. Out on the Lake Simcoe.
Okay.
Here north of the city in Toronto. Beautiful day. Great for the tan. Great for also the sunburn.
Uh-oh.
I had the fantastic tan/burn through the jersey. So I had the bib strap tan lines on my back right now.
That's a next level of tan line. So when you're at the beach, people can really ask you questions about what's going on.
They might think I'm an outdoor wrestler. You know, maybe like I'm a low-level professional wrestler in like a car dealer parking lot with the unitard on.
Aim high, buddy. Aim high. Well, it is nice that summer is in full effect, and we're recording this shortly after Canada Day weekend, shortly after Road Nationals, which will come up in our Full Send, No Send segment.
What about you? I think I saw a little one taking some pedals on with no training wheels on your Instagram.
Yeah. The little Grom was on her pedal bike. And, you know, I was trying to keep it cool, like, way to go, that's really good. But in my head, it's like explosions of joy.
Is this the first summer without the Strider bike or balance bike?
Yeah, I guess. Like, that was
deal.
what we call a breakthrough performance.
Nice.
She's had a few moments of like she's been on the balance bike, and
if she was on Exert, it would be like a big breakthrough.
She would have got a cold breakthrough. But it was cool to see that. But then she was back in the trailer for some, because, you know, she knows how to get around.
When you're carrying the trailer, are you carrying her bike and her in the trailer?
I've done that, but not this past weekend. Okay. I have carried her bike. We've gone to the bike park. Then I've thrown her and her bike back in the trailer. That's really good for
serious training.
Serious.
It's like the equivalent of putting ankle weights on when you go for a run.
Exactly. But
on to this episode. Summertime. It's the tour.
This is our special tour episode. So we are going to get deep into Marilyn Trout's story, whom you heard at the top of the show, and also her team from the 1984 Tour de France Féminin. It was a very significant event that is underreported. Writer Dan Dakin has a story on it in the current issue of Canadian Cycling Magazine, and it's one that we're proud to get out there. And then in Full Send, No Send, what are we going to talk about?
We are going to talk about the two tours that are going on in July.
The two tours.
Well,
I know of one in France.
Yes. But you know what? A lot of people don't know where the other one is, and it's probably their fault. So we'll get into that.
Oh, there's a bit of anger in there. I like that. Yes. So special Tour de France, but not just Tour de France, special tour edition.
Yes. Special tours edition.
Special tours edition. But first, let's head back to 1984. Quick. Who's the first Canadian to finish in the top 10 at the Tour? Steve Bauer, right? In 1985? Well, there's a Canadian who finished 8th in the Tour the year before. Marilyn Trout, who was Marilyn Wells at the time, competed in the 1984 Tour de France Féminin. Her teammate, Kellyanne Way, is the first North American to win a Tour stage, a year before Greg LeMond won a time trial stage and 2 years before Davis Finney won a road stage. But it's almost impossible to find stories about Trout and Way's accomplishments, as well as their teammates, who include Suzanne Lemieux, Hilary Brown, Senta Bauermeister, and Jacqueline Shaw. Of that group, Trout is very much the historian. She went back into her journals from 35 years ago for stories from that significant Tour de France Féminin. Marilyn Trout, as I understand the story, going into the first modern incarnation of the Tour de France Féminin, it was a bit of a consolation race for you and your teammates. In June 1984, what were you guys trying out for at that time? What was the big goal of that year in 1984?
Well, the big goal was making the 1984 Olympic team. I mean, that was the number one. That was the first year for the women to have any cycling event at the Olympics. And so that is the drive. The drive of any country is that quadrennial plan for going from Olympic to Olympics. Their budget is that way. Their racing plan is that way. And so that is the typical plan of athletes. At least for me, the Olympics weren't as enticing, really, as the Tour de France. The Tour de France was the ultimate for a cyclist, and I love stage racing. One-day races, they were not as passionate. I wasn't as passionate about a one-day race, although they were so important because that usually chose the riders for an event. Winning the national championships, winning the world trials. That gave you an automatic spot to those big events. But being chosen for the Tour de France, secretly inside, that was the epitome of a cycling career. So that I think, yes, it was the B riders. But as a cyclist, oh my goodness, to go to the Tour de France, that was a real goal.
You were chosen for that squad as well as 5 other women from Canada, and around that time, Jacques Anquetil wrote in L'Équipe about this new Tour de France Féminin. Do you remember what he wrote?
It was something that would fire any female up, that female athlete. I think that he would prefer that a woman be in a short skirt rather than on the saddle of a bike, and we weren't capable of doing such a feat. And I believe he wasn't alone in that whole mindset. But that didn't matter to us, and certainly that has never mattered to me with my goals as a cyclist, that it be gender related. It was always a personal goal for me, no matter what other people had said, or, you're paving the way for other women. I didn't think about it like that. I thought about it as an opportunity to see what I could do in my sport, because this would not last forever. And so it was so much more personal than proving something to somebody. That held more weight to me of what my personal goals were.
How were you and your teammates received in France when you arrived?
We were treated like queens. We had the best hotels, we had the best food, and I just remember doing our transfers, going from our finish line to the next start town, and being in that long caravan with the luggage vehicles and with the team cars, and people would just hang out their windows and wave just like we were queens coming to their little town, even if we weren't stopping but just driving through. It was just getting a glimpse of the Tour de France. I imagine they knew that we were women, but it really didn't matter to them, and it certainly didn't matter to us because of the reception that we had. Having those great hotels, having the great food was a nice change. I remember trying to get in shape for the Tour de France, and we went down to a race in Texas, and it was a super race. But for those that weren't on teams, there was one time that we had to stay in a rodeo town, and the only place that we could stay, and the B riders went there, was a cowboy's quarters, and we had to stay above the pig pens. And so there were some tough times to get to that point where you're treated as queens.
From sleeping above pig pens to the Tour de France caravan, that sounds like quite the contrast.
Oh, yes. So we definitely took the being treated as queens.
So you were treated well there, but what kind of support did you have before you got to France? Like, was your flight paid for? And how much kit or gear did you have on you?
Well, being a historian like I am, I do have the ticket. I did see the ticket even this morning when I opened up my training diary. And we left on June 26th, 3 days after the last stage of the Niagara Classic, which was the Olympic trials. We had that paid for. Whenever you do an international race with the Canadian team, from what I understand, that is covered by the host event. However, we did not have kit per se. We had our own bikes. If we didn't have spare wheels, well, my spare wheels were pretty, they couldn't be transferred between bikes. There was no standardization. I had to use, in one race, I had to use Mavic neutral support, and the brakes didn't work on that neutral bike. And the coach said to me, "Oh, you have to go fast. You don't need any brakes." Well, that's just what happens when you're over there. But we all had to use our personal bikes, and what we brought, that's what we had. We didn't have any sweatsuits at all. We had a gray sweatsuit, a sweat top with Nike on it, and somebody put a Canadian flag on our shoulders to identify what country we were in or from. We had jerseys, but the jerseys that were given to us had to be returned when we finished the tour. So there was no mementos to bring back. I remember purchasing a skin suit, so I brought that over. But only what we brought, that's what we had. I remember one stage, the bikes that were on top of the car was the mechanics from Canada and also the coaches. And my bike, the derailleur had broken, several K into the race. And I had to get off, and because it was just jammed. And I had the coach's bike, and the coach's bike was way too big, and I was just reaching for those pedals. But you just made things work. You didn't get hung up on what you didn't have.
What was the dynamic like between the Canadians and the other riders at the tour?
Oh, I have great memories of that. The tour is like nothing else. There are stage races around the world, but there's not the camaraderie that you have in a big tour like that in Europe, because you're traveling from transfers from the finish town to the start town. I would usually go into the broom wagon, and that's just a vehicle. It usually would follow the race, and if there was any problem or a rider abandoned, then they would go into the broom wagon. But I found out that it was just a big international sort of party between towns, and the Brits would be in there, Americans, Dutch, and just a small group there. And it was a point for me to relax between races and just to see that these riders were simply human, loved a good joke, and they would love to sing. And it was it just provided another layer of camaraderie, and just seeing how people were outside of racing. There was just a great friendship there and still a friendship that lasts today with riders that I met throughout my experiences at the Tour de France. So it was a wonderful experience, family. When we would stay at different hotels, but maybe there would be 3 or 4 countries at that same hotel, and we would just be eating together in the morning. So you didn't feel like there was any, you just felt like a big family that had to get a job done, and someone was going to win the race at the end of the day. And you still wanted to do that, but it was just an interesting dynamic.
What songs were you guys singing in the broom wagon between town transfers or stage transfers?
Well, it was probably not me leading. I would just follow along and make noise. But I remember the Dutch. The Dutch, they were a phenomenal group, just phenomenal. They just seemed like great friends that they didn't care who won the race as long as it was an orange jersey. And they had a great sense of humor. And they were so confident. Whenever you saw an orange jersey cross the line, you would see one arm. But about 25 meters back, you would see another arm go up all the time. So you always saw 2 arms, and it would be the lead-out rider. And I treated the Dutch as my tutors because they were so dominant in the race, really up until, I think, 3/4 of the race, where Marianne Martin, snuck in with, she was hanging about in second spot overall. But Helena Haga, she was pretty dominant in the overall GC. But any one of those 6 Dutch riders had a wicked sprint and had the savvy to know where to be in that final sprint. They had prepared as a team, whereas of course we were really a ragtag group of just enthusiastic riders who supported one another. And I think in all of my career, that 1984 team was really a highlight. It was a selfless team. It just was a different dynamic. And I think one of the different dynamics there is because we had Jacqueline Shaw and we had Hilary Matt, who are triathletes who were not in the cycling community, but they were so motivated to learn how to bike race because they were so tuned to being lone riders because they had to time trial all the time in the triathlon. And in this dynamic, they had to be within a team, and they were so willing to work so hard. They were so strong. When that time that I had the mechanical and had to use the coach's bike, and my bike got jammed, I had to wait and wait and wait for the team car. But lo and behold, there were 2 riders that came back from me, and it was, I believe, one of them was Hilary. And they paced me back up to the pack. The team car came up and said, "Marilyn, you have to get off your bike and get back on your bike." I said, "Ain't no way I'm getting back off my bike. I don't want to chase again." And they said, "Nope, got to get off." Got off, and they gave my bike back. And I was concerned, I have to chase again, because we had a team meeting saying, because I was the highest on GC, I was the team leader that they would work for and would try and get away and get time in a break. And everything was falling apart at that time. But lo and behold, these 2 riders came back, and I think it was Hilary Matt and Sue Lemieux. And I was so pumped at that point. I just wanted to execute that plan. They came back. I flew by them. They got on my wheel. But I had never experienced that before with such team support. And I think one of the reasons why is the system that we had is that every race was a race for personal points to get, so we could get to the World Championships for a later date. And it was sort of instilled in us that if we worked for someone else, and if someone else got the result, then we would put ourselves in jeopardy. And that's just the way it was. So no one ever worked for anybody else. I do know that that changed years later because the coaching changed, the system changed, and there was recognition for riders that worked for another rider for the overall good, for the overall general classification or the overall win. But at that point in time, it was every man for itself. I really felt it was, more times than not, a group of individuals that wore the Canadian jersey rather than a team working for a common good. And but in 1984, that was yes, it was a ragtag group, but boy, we were wearing the same jersey, and we took that plan to heart, and we would work hard for each other.
You mentioned the Dutch riders were, in a sense, your tutors, and they were quite a dominant team, especially at the beginning of that race. But it was the Canadians, I believe, who kind of schooled them on stage 8. What do you remember about stage 8, and who was first across the line on that day?
My teammate Kellyanne Way. Her forte was time trialing, and she used that to win that stage. I believe she broke away about a kilometer from the end of the breakaway that she was in, and to win that stage. What the plan was, once we started popping into the top 5, and we knew that we could mix it up, and we started getting confident, we started having the plan of, okay, let's keep on attacking. Let's always have a Canadian in the break. And so I just recalled in my journal here that that there would be multiple attacks, counterattacks, but a Canadian always had to be in there. And so that day on stage 8, after several attacks of myself being in a break, one of the other teammates being in a break, then finally that break got away, and Hilary and Kellyanne were in that break. And with any of the Dutch in the break, you can't play into the sprinter's hand. And so Kellyanne was smart to break away with her gift of time trialing a kilometer from the end and having Hilary cover for her if any of the Dutch tried to follow her. So that was the beginning of, okay, we can do this. And so that was our plan every day. We had to be in the break. Instead of being defensive, we were on the offense. We would initiate things.
You raced 18 stages. What is maybe the biggest highlight across all of those days of racing?
Well, for me, I have 3 stages. Stage 5, I broke into the top 5. I was always hanging in the top 10. And if you can get in the top 10, you can get in the top 5. Get in the top 5, you can get in the top 3. Get in the top 3, you can win. I was 5th. And I said in my journal that I held the Dutch wheel all the way to the end. And that was a real confidence booster for me to be able to maneuver in that final chaotic sprint and hold that wheel, because I thought, if I can hold the wheel to the end, I can win. And I could see what they did and how they maneuvered. So that was a confidence booster for me. In stage 12, that was huge for going for a higher GC. And with our Canadian plan of always having a Canadian in the break, it was just, for me to race, it had to be bigger than myself. The purpose for me being there had to be bigger than myself. And so this purpose was to have that Canadian jersey and have it higher than 10th overall. eighth overall. And at that point, I think I was 7th overall. And so the team said, we'll work for you to get you in the top 5. So in stage 12, there was, I think, a 12K climb. And there was a journalist, Samuel Apt, who wrote On the Road with the Tour de France. And of course, it was a book about the men, but then one chapter was one about the women. And lo and behold, on stage 12, he was in our team car. And so I have a running account of the dialogue or the monologue that the coach had with me of, Marilyn, you can do it. Don't just stay here. Get up to those 5 riders before the top of the climb. You can do it. So my confidence was being shouted at me throughout that climb, and that was a real boost for me, not only in that single race, the overall tour, and into my racing career to come, which lasted with the Canadian team until 1988. And the last stage was that stage that I referred to in stage 16, where I came 3rd. And I was in a breakaway with 3 French, 2 Dutch, and an American. And the plan was for a Canadian to be in the break, get some time for GC, to bump you up in GC. And that mechanical happened, and I overcame a number of things that I had not experienced before, and that was huge for my career, to know that I could be up there. I could win a race. The next day I was back to, can I do it? I never did have a coach. The only person I had was actually a running coach who I came to know, and I needed that for my my psychological boost, not the technical. I could get that from other riders and other teams. So that particular stage into Grenoble was Grenoble, and then also stage 16, where I came 3rd. That I could mix it up with the best in the world there, and so I think those 3 stages, not just one, but those 3 just added to that 3-legged stool of being a better cyclist.
When the race was over, Canada had racked up a stage win at the Tour. Your teammate, Kellyanne Way, is the first North American to win a stage at the Tour. She predated Greg LeMond and Davis Finney. You were in 8th in GC. That's where you finished. So you were the first Canadian to get into the top 10 at the Tour, before Steve Bauer got 10th in his debut tour. These are significant stats. Yet not so many people know of the accomplishments of those 6 riders, of you and your 5 teammates. Why not?
That's a big question. I don't know. Those were big accomplishments for women or men. I don't know. They got lost in the annals of history. They were just a number. I don't know, because they were huge to each one of us women. I'm sure there are answers out there of why someone didn't grab a hold of that. I do know that I have the newspaper clippings, and certainly, 7/8 of it is 7 paragraphs are about the men, and then, even when Kellyanne won, it was Joyride for Kellyanne, I think it said, but there was just one sentence there. I remember being in racing in Europe in 1985, and for some reason, there was a recap of the Tour de France for women of the 1984 tour. And I thought, there I am. I would love to have some coverage that I could see that I was racing. but I don't have any video, any coverage that way. I don't have any audio. I have pictures. Oh, I have plenty of pictures. I would track down photographers in the tour, and I would track them down in Paris after the tour, and they would be more than willing to give all these black and white photos, which I got. But as far as Canada, the world, recognizing, maybe not even recognizing, but just having an historical account of this. I think several years ago when they started to have Le Course for the tour, and it was said that it's about time that the women have a part of the Tour de France. And I'm thinking, what? That already happened. And we need, a couple of stages, and I'm thinking, we already did that. We did that in 1984 when we had 3 weeks of racing. We didn't have the full distance, but to tell you the truth, after doing, several category one climbs and climbing over the Alps and the Orgadagor climbs, and to have some women saying, oh, they should do the distance of the men. I'm thinking, no, they haven't even done our distance yet. So one thing at a time. But I'm very perplexed by statements that come out like that. And it might even be by women who say, yes, we need to have this now. And I'm thinking, oh, there are books out there. It has happened. Yes, should we reinstate it? Oh, I think that would be a good thing. But why is it lost? I don't have the answers to that. And does it bug you? Oh, yeah, because I'm a history nut. And that is not how history unfolded for us, which was huge. It was huge to us personally. It was huge to us as a team. It was, yes, it might be on paper the B riders, but nonetheless it happened. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense what is done, and how it is recorded, and how the value of an event and what someone has done. But I am sure, happy that 35 years later that you have taken an interest in what happened so long ago with what a group of 6 riders did from Canada.
Can you see any influence from maybe that group of 6 or even that event in 1984, even if it's a quiet influence? Do you see any effects of that even today?
I think for that 1984 Tour de France, oh yes, I still think there's ripples today with the modern women, the modern riders, the contemporary riders that are riding today, that are on the backs of what has been done previously. And only the riders that were in that moment can understand exactly where they fit in to that big tapestry that we see on the wall. And we see that one color, that one little thread that goes throughout that whole tapestry, and we can say, that little thread, it started in 1984. And we know that that's us, because that influenced this person, and this person, and this person, and this person. And there's that thread that goes all the way to 2019. But many times we just see that big picture, or we're looking at that tapestry in one corner of where someone else influenced someone else in the, whether it be Canadian cycling or whatever it is. And so that's how I treat the whole adventure and wonderful experience that I was a part of in 1984.
What do you think of the state of women's road racing today?
Oh, wow. Well, I wish there was more coverage. It's so wonderful to see when we see Flèche Wallonne or some of these classics or the Tour de Under, and they actually have a little bit of coverage of the women, even if it's in a smaller box, a running commentary. Oh, this is what's happening at the finish line. This is what's happening 10K from the finish. So it is a slow go with women's sport, women's cycling, but there is, it's going in a good direction. Oh, I follow the Canadian riders. I read their results. I've always been a results person. When we would be getting ready to turn out the light, my teammate Denise Kelly, she would say, "Marilyn, you are weird." Well, I knew that already, but she said, "Marilyn, you're so strange." She said, "Here I'm reading a book to get my mind off of cycling, and here you're combing through with a pen, writing down all the results. What are you doing?" "Oh," I said, "just getting things in my mind of where everybody is and their numbers and their time." And so anything cycling, I just really enjoy. But so I keep track on the Canadian women, the road and the track cup, the World Track Cup. I have been following those women. I had the pleasure of being a part of the Canadian coaching staff in the 2012 Exergy Tour, and many of those riders are still racing top level. Carol Ann Kenual just won the Canadian Road Championships this week after breaking a collarbone. I think it was in Italy this year. And she was at that Exergy Tour. And so I just love journeying with riders that I have come to know in the past, and even those that I don't know, and just giving a big cheer for the Canadian women who are on professional teams around the world, and making a mark for Canada.
Do you tell people that you meet at parties or maybe day-to-day in your work that you've ridden the Tour de France?
Yeah. I have a small landscaping business. I had a small coaching business called Mountain Petals with a D, and now I have Mountain Petals with a T, landscaping and design. And when it's very inclement weather, we have pretty violent weather here at times in Colorado, and the storm just comes over the mountain and just strikes, and it is pouring, and the water's rushing, and my clients open up the window. "Marilyn, go home. Go home. It's enough. It's enough." And no, I've just got 2 more shrubs to dig in. I'm almost done. And I said, I've been training and racing in the Tour de France just to work in your garden. And of course, it's a laugh. But there is truth in that, because that mentality doesn't leave you. You might hang up the race wheels, but that drive is still there. And my cycling career definitely changed me in every way. My greatest joy in my landscaping is actually when people say that I'm a landscape coach. I love that teamwork, and that's why that 1984 team was so wonderful to me, because I am a team player at heart. Oh yes, I can work alone. I have my landscape business. I'm the only one, but I love working as a team, and that the teamwork comes with perhaps a client who said, "Just teach me. I'll work with you," and then we work for a common goal. So it hasn't left me. It is very much a part of my everyday life.
Marilyn Trout, thank you very much.
Very welcome. Thanks so much, Matthew.
Marilyn Trout is a former national team rider. She's from St. Catharines, Ontario. In 1984, she competed in the Tour de France Féminin. She finished 8th overall. Today, she lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And welcome to Full Send, No Send, Special Tours Edition and Timerless Edition.
Dun, dun, dun.
Because Dan says we have so much to get through, we are not going to be constrained by a stopwatch.
No, time and this stopwatch is just an artificial construct. So
it is. That usually keeps us focused. But let's focus first on the Giro Rosa. What's the full name of the Giro Rosa? Go, quick.
Giro Féminin Italia.
Oh, stop. But I wouldn't have done much better because I prepared. Giro d'Italia Internazionale Femminile, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyway, Giro Rosa for short. Mm-hmm. That's how we're going to call it. It is probably the most important women's race.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah? Okay, not probably. It is.
I think so, especially considered that way in the women's peloton.
Yep. And we have two Canadians there. Leah Kirchman, a recent national TT champ, and she's been like everything road champ at one time or another. And she usually does really well on the prologue.
Yes.
She was in pink on Canada Day in 2014, and her team won the Triple T in Was it last year? I think it was last year. Likely she'll probably have some opportunities.
She'll just have some opportunities. She's been doing really well. She had an awesome second at the OVO Women's Tour just a couple weeks ago. That's like the key buildup. That's the Dauphiné to the women's calendar, to the tour, to the Giro Rosa, if you will. Mm-hmm. If you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Word.
And then I think Carol and Canuel will also be there representing the Maple Leaf.
Yes. Yeah. Road champion. Yep. At Nationals.
I always love when the road champ is a European pro, so you get more exposure for that cool national jersey.
Yes.
It's always a little disappointing when it's like a continental guy or a continental woman here, where it's like you're not really seeing it at the tour. You like to have it represented.
I mean, yeah, it's good to get the Maple Leaf abroad. Let's see. Who else are we keeping an eye on for that event?
Ashley Moolman-Pasio. I think she's who I would peg. She's been super crashy this year, though. So if she can keep it up on two wheels, I think she is one to watch. Of course, she does have a share team with Marianne Vos. So,
yeah,
maybe they go for the not the trident of Movistar, but the two-pronged attack, the pitchfork of bowls. Or no, of CCC.
Right.
Yeah, those are the two I would have my eye on.
There's also Kasia Niemadoma, who, she won Amstel. She was second at the Energy Women's Tour, 7th last year.
Yeah, she's been on form this year.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what, Matt?
What?
Here's where I'm going no send on this race.
Oh, you are going no send on the biggest women's race of the year.
I'm going to do it. And you know what? You know whose fault it is?
Whose fault is it?
The race organizer's fault.
Well, they're easy to blame.
You know what? Why is your race during the tour?
During the Tour de France?
Yes, exactly. You know what? You want people to care. Don't put it during the biggest race on the calendar.
When should they put it?
I don't know. Right before, right after, pretty much any other time than the 3 weeks where everyone is watching cycling in France in July.
There is merit to your argument. I will not disagree, but let me just play devil's advocate. Maybe the organizers thought the glow of the tour would also somehow get people's eyeballs over to the Giro Rosa. It's like this is the time of year when, casual cyclists are interested in cycling, or even not, and even like, grandparents who just like to watch the tour for the tourism elements. Like
the castle chats.
The castle chats. People come out for the tour. And, so maybe there'll be a sort of
like an osmosis effect,
something like osmosis, or something like, oh, look, there's this other race going on.
But this is it. I don't think people have really the attention for tour stages anymore. So to go over and try and pay attention to another race where, because of the lack of coverage in women's cycling, they don't really know the characters as well anyways. So by having to share the spotlight, we're just doing them a huge disservice.
Well,
you know what? No send, Giro Rosa. Change your dates.
So really, you're no send on your dates.
On the dates. No, the race is great. It's the most important race on the calendar. We got tons of Canadians who can actually do things in that race.
And a Canadian ton is too. But yeah. I take your point. I take your point.
I mean, it's the same we'll have in the Tour, but...
That's right.
In the Giro Rosa, they might play more of a starting role.
Well, here we go. Then on to that other bike race that's going on in July. It does end the Canuck drought that has been going, or this year marks the end of the Canuck drought. Can you remember who the last Canuck was in the Tour de France? It was 2 years ago. 2016.
Swain Tuft?
Nope. He's not going to be there this year because he recently had an operation.
Duchenne.
Yeah, that's right.
Tony the Tiger.
Duchenne. Tony the Tiger was there in 2016 with Direct Energie. But this year, two debut riders making their debuts.
Yes.
We have Michael Woods and Hugo Uhl.
Yeah, no, he just came out with a nice comment through the EF Education First release saying he's going to be out there attacking every day, putting the Canuck face in front of the camera so those kids can be like Mike when they're growing up and they can be inspired.
What did that make you think of? To be like Mike?
To be like Mike Gatorade commercial?
That's right. His quote was, I'm here to be active and influence the outcome so that some Canadian kid back at home can watch and say, that's Mike Woods. I want to grow up and race like Mike Woods. That's what motivates me.
What a guy.
That's cool. That's cool. He takes his role as a role model seriously. And yeah, this goes back to our last full send, no send, where we were debating, do we want him on GC? Do we want him for stage wins?
Yeah.
Sounds stage winny.
Sounds stage winny. Sounds super domestique-ish, if you will.
Yes.
They are going there with hopes of Rigoberto Urán replicating his second place finish from not this year, but the year before.
2017.
And Rigo's a guy who's easy to cheer for, easy to work for if from what we see on the behind the scenes in the bus is accurate. It looks like a ton of fun. Maybe the best hair in the Tour. That guy's got some flow that would make a K-pop star jealous.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
and if you want to go check out his dance moves to a little Jaime Belvin.
I've seen his dance moves. What was the one where he had the fur hat?
Yes, that was to Jaime himself.
Thank you. Okay.
I won't sing it because my Spanish isn't very good.
Wise. Yeah. So that's on the EF Education First front. And as we mentioned, the other Canuck is Hugo Uhl. He is on Astana, and I think Jakob Fuglsang is going to be there. Yeah,
Fuglsang is their GC man. I guess that brings us to the GC contenders. Let's start with the Dane himself. Fuglsang, probably if you took away the name Fuglsang and you just said Rider X has won the Dauphiné, third at Tirreno, first at Liège this year, you'd be like, oh, this guy's primed to win. This guy's on the right track.
It sounds like it. You're right.
Yeah. But Fuglsang me once, shame on you.
Wow.
Fuglsang me twice, just shame on me.
There you go.
Yeah. 12th at the Tour last year. I think 7th is his best result ever at the Tour.
I know, and so he's going well. His team has been on fire this year. You would think, but I'm still hesitant to put money down on him. Maybe in the top 10 I'd be feeling that, but top 3 I don't.
This is it. He's never done it when it counts at the Tour.
I don't think so.
And then you've got Adam Yates and Simon Yates, but they'll be working for Adam. Which one is which I don't know, but it's the one named Adam that they'll be working for. So I think he's got a decent chance for a podium. They always seem to have a bad day. He's had a good result in the Tour. He's been 4th back in 2016. Not a great year this year. Sick at the Dauphiné. Always a little wary of someone coming off an illness.
What are your feelings on Ineos?
Bernal, the guy's on fire.
He really is.
That is a ton of pressure on a kid who's 22.
Yep.
He's never really led the team at a at a Grand Tour. He's done a tour, which helps. He kind of knows what the circus is going to be like.
It's true.
So, but having that pressure on you to be there day in, day out, I think it'll be too much for him.
Really?
I see him cracking the top 10. And for your first GC campaign, that's going to be pretty good.
Geraint Thomas, defending champ.
What has he done this year other than
he's had
launch a book, launch a beer, crash?
Do we call that a conservative build-up?
That would be one way to put it.
All right.
But he's not done anything good. So if you're looking at his form beyond his history, what do you get?
I don't know. Well, however, back to Rigoberto Urán, who is a GC hopeful. Yep. He's had a super conservative build-up.
But
third at Route L'Occitane, which was won by Alejandro Valverde. What else did he do this year?
So he did have the injury earlier in the year with the broken collarbone, right. But at least he's finished. He's got some hard days racing leading up to the Tour, finishing on the podium at what used to be a really prestigious race. Now it's kind of the second tier stage race leading up to the Tour, but promising direction. Armand Geraint, he just crashed.
Yeah.
And he's just crashed, and he hasn't had a lot of racing days. So this says to me, not on form. Maybe he has the whole I'm coming in undercooked thing, and we're going to be peaking for the third week of the Tour. Ineos is kind of good at that stuff. Davey B, runs a tight ship and knows how to get people, in shape. So there's that. Right.
Did you saw the cover of L'Équipe, Now or Never, or This Year or Never?
Yeah. Pinot. I don't think it's his year because there's been a record heat wave in France. The guy does not go well in the heat, and he always just has one bad day.
Yeah. What was his last good tour? Was third in 2014. He hasn't been to the Tour since 2017, and he was. I don't think he didn't finish in 16. Oh no, wait, and in 17 he didn't finish. So
there you go. The man does not go well in the heat.
Yeah.
And I think there's record temperatures in France.
There are, yes, that's right. The place is cooking.
So maybe not the year for our man Thibaut, but the other great French hope, Romain Bardet, he has been actually pretty consistent at the Tour. With the few TT kilometers that you have this year, I actually think he has a really good shot to do it.
To win it.
Because
he's been third and second.
Going for the chicken dinner this year. They got there's a team time trial, and then the individual time trial is a pretty short hilly time trial as well. So I think he'll leak time there, but he'll have enough time to recover in the high mountains in the third week. There's our man Nairo.
Oh yeah, that guy who I've stopped betting on.
Yeah, you know what? I'm almost willing to say he's irrelevant.
Whoa, that's
what. He's actually not done anything worth talking about in the last few years.
Wow.
Except, formally win get on the podium in the Tour way back in the day in his first results. But he's part of that famous Movistar Trident.
There you go.
Yeah, which has never really worked. The Pitchfork formula seemed to have worked at the Giro for them.
Right.
Trident.
I think a Pitchfork, though, has
3
tines as well. What's the one that you use to jab your steak with the 2 prongs?
Well, I was thinking Pitchfork, so obviously I'm not farmy.
You haven't been farming enough.
Yeah. So look at Landa, Valverde. I think Valverde's just too old.
The world champion.
Yeah, but it's not 3 weeks.
It's true. That's a one-day race. Is that it for Full Send No Send?
Oh, Neebs.
Oh. I can't believe we forgot the Shark of Messina.
Okay. I don't think he can win just because he's coming off a full Giro where he was really going for it. But, if a couple of the contenders crash out, he's got this wily veteran thing going on where he just knows how to put himself in a position to contend.
Yeah. Just keep it steady, and then like a shark knows when to attack.
Dun, 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 dun. Anyways, give me your head pick, give me your heart pick.
Oh, man. That's really tough. You know what? I think Geraint Thomas can defend it.
Okay.
I think the well-oiled machine is going to keep on chugging, and I'm just gonna be. That's kind of a lame sort of head pick. Hard pick is probably Uran.
Uran.
There you go.
Yeah, no.
That would be so fun.
They're so easy to cheer for.
They are. They continue that lovable goofball shtick that they've been rocking that for years. But
underdogs are always easy to cheer for. And they do a great job of like bringing you behind the scenes. They have some great photographers. And if you follow their email list, like you get some really cool stuff as well. So yeah, I'll take Balde for my heart pick.
Okay.
And I remember, not that I have any strong feelings towards the French, but I think it'd be nice to have them cheering for a hometown.
You feel the effects of their drought?
Yes, exactly. And then, you know what? Fool me 3 times because I'm going Jakob. Jakob Fuglsang.
That's your heart pick?
Yeah, that's my head pick.
Oh, that's your... Wait a minute, now I'm confused.
Bardet's my heart pick.
There you go.
Fuglsang's my head pick.
I think they're both a bit long shotty. Yeah, a bit from the heart.
Yeah. Well, all right.
There we go.
You know what? I'm going full send on the tour this year, though.
Really? You're stoked for
Bring it around. Full send on the tour.
Full send of the tour. Oh, does the schedule jive for you?
The schedule does jive for me, yeah.
Excellent. All right. Full send, no send. And that's the episode. It's put together by me, Matthew Piaro, and Dan Walker, and we had help from Terry McCall and Philippe Tremblay. It's produced by Adam Killick. He also composed the music. Also, thanks to Ontario Creates for its support. Dan, if someone wants more news, reviews, gear stuff, where should they go?
Probably check out cyclingmagazine.ca. That is the Canadian Cycling Magazine website. There, you can find all our social channels as well. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're also on Apple News. So
yes,
you can check us out there.
Also on Apple News Plus, you can get the magazine. So it's a really good package.
Now, who should the people tell about the podcast this week?
Okay. So you know those once-a-year cycling fans who tune in for the tour, they know the tour, maybe, and then that's it? They tune out? Turn those people into hardcore cycling fans by sending them to our podcast.
Make sure they're no longer dabblers. Make sure they subscribe. Make sure they rate and review, but...
5 stars, please.
And?
Please say something nice. It really helps us out. Also, if you're communicating with us, you can send us an email at podcast@cyclingmagazine.ca. We will take your full send, no send ideas and maybe run with them. Also, we are going to get back to asking our coach, Peter Glassford, questions. So if you have specific questions for Peter, let us know. All right, and we'll talk to you later.